Darren Young, who wrote for Now Magazine, he said the truest thing about me. Bill Brio said it too. Mike Bullard doesn't stand behind the line. Mike Bullard doesn't step over the line. Mike Bullard stands on the line.
Stand-up comic and talk show host Mike Bullard has died at the age of 67. The controversial comedian rose to prominence as the host of 2 late-night talk shows.
What he did, a lot of people don't realize, it was impossible. He hosted a late-night talk show in Canada.
Bullard won 2 Gemini Awards and was honored in 2013 with the Queen's Diamond Jubilee Medal for his volunteer work.
Bullard was accused of criminal harassment of his ex-girlfriend and demonized as a stalker in the media.
Waiting for you to show up in a big chopper. Okay, that'd be pretty cool.
I was hoping, man.
When I was 9, I wanted to be a cop, right? I always wanted to be a cop. My stint as a cop, 10 minutes out of my life.
The big problem with the police department with me was I'm the kind of guy who likes to mind my own business, and that's in direct conflict with that type of job, right?
But you'd spent your whole life wanting to be a cop, right?
Yeah, and then you get there and you go, why did I want to do this? I mean, why did I want to do this?
I hated it. When they found out I wanted to go to Yuck Yucks and start doing amateur night, they hit me with that. You can't go there. We decide what you can moonlight on. You can't moonlight on a job like that. You're going to be around people taking drugs. You're going to be around people who are boozing. We don't want you doing a job like that, which was a joke and a half. I was associate director of corporate investigations. So I was in charge of interrogation and embezzlement and stuff. I stayed at Bell 22 years. The last 10 of those years, I was doing Yuck Yucks every night. But the company loved it because they were using me for all their dog and pony shows, right? Every award show, every this, every that. And that was good because it gave me a starting point. Plus my brother, I mean, I was writing stuff with him, and I was there when he started in can't believe it, man, 40 years ago, in 1981.
You're the master spritzer. But did you ever have a set? Like, I mean, how did you start?
You know what? I had an amateur night I had to, right? Yeah. I can't forget the jokes I had. Like, they're unfucking believable when I look back. Do Eskimo cops feel foolish when they yell freeze? Like, I look back now and I go, holy fuck, thank God you spritzed. The other one I had was, wait till the Japanese get a hold of bungee jumping, it'll be cordless. I doing that on an amateur night, and there were 4 Japanese guys in the audience, and they went up to the manager after and called me a racist for that joke.
Even back then?
Oh, even back then, man, I couldn't fucking believe it. Mississauga helped me a lot. The Mississauga Club, Sam Duva. Sean Keane would go in there to headline. The guy was brilliant. Brilliant. But if it wasn't going his way as a headliner, Sean would do 17 minutes and say goodnight. So I lived 5 minutes from the Mississauga Club. Whenever there was an issue, Sam had the manager call me. Like if somebody was going to be late or something, Sam would have the manager call me, and they would go, do you want to MC tonight? Come on over. And this would happen like 3 Saturdays out of the month. And Sam was really nervous about somebody finding out because I wasn't really an accredited pro then, right? And Mark shows up. I didn't even know he was there, but I went up and I killed 20 off the top. So then I go to the back of the room, and Mark's there. He calls me over and he goes, okay, from now on, you know what? You can MC, you can do whatever you want.
I was a fantastic stepfather, but I was a terrible husband.
How long were you married?
17 years, and I would say I was married 15 years too long.
Wow, okay.
And the big mistake I made was marrying somebody who was 5 years older than me. And the generation gap between her and I was worse than the generation gap between me and her kids. When we got divorced, I paid through the nose because I felt guilty because I did fool her.
Okay.
But I was never truly in love with her. My last words were, hey, if I knew I was going to get a TV show, I never would have got married to begin with. But
Jesus.
Mark used to say to me all the time, when are you going to headline? When are you going to headline? When are you going to headline? I would go, never. And he goes, why not? Did David Letterman ever headline? No. He was the MC. That's all he ever did. And he did it because he wanted a late night talk show. And I said, I'm telling you why I'm doing it. And Mark, you know what? He never laughed at me. He never said it's never going to happen. He just said to me, you know what? If that's what you want, I give up. If that's what you want to do, I give up. Go ahead and do it. Ken Shaw from CFTO News asked me to MC a charity golf tournament for him. So I go, sure, I'll do it. And Doug Bassett's there, the Bassett family. I mean, they own the Telegram, they own CFTO, they own CTV, they own everything. He goes, can you think of something you'd want to do? I go, yeah, late night talk show. He goes, oh, I don't know, Mike, you know, they've tried with Ralph Ben-Murgy, they tried with Peter Zowski. I said, yeah, listen to the names. They tried with news guys. Nobody's ever done it with a stand-up comic. I said, the reason it works in the States, Johnny Carson was a comic, David Letterman was a comic, Jay Leno was a comic. They've all been comics, Doug. He goes, okay. And that's basically how it happened. Doug Bassett going, okay, let's figure out what we're going to do here. Mike's going to have a talk show. I hired Greg Eckler, Lawrence Morgenstern, Rob Ross, and Sean Tweedley. They were the writers. The network had no idea how to do a late night talk show. We also had to hire segment producers who were in charge of guests, and no one in the country had ever done it. We got Keith Tomasek, because Keith was amazing, and he got us people like I could not believe, like Nicolas Cage. But the trouble with Keith was he didn't dot his I's and cross his T's when it came to the contracts and stuff and the actress stuff and all that bullshit. He was terrible at the paperwork. So then they would get on him about it, and I would walk in the room and go, okay, you got two other ones who are great at the paperwork, and what are they going to get me, red, green once a week? Fuck that. Leave Keith alone. And they didn't like hearing that. The production company I worked with, who shall remain nameless, biggest assholes I ever met, they didn't like hearing that shit. And they didn't like me doing it. It was the same thing with Oren in the band. Like, those guys, we never had one disagreement, not one. And it was the smartest move I ever made was him. Because he never, ever let me down. I never once did I throw something to him that he didn't catch it and toss it back to me. If I had it to do all over again, knowing what I know now, I would have been the executive producer. To be the executive producer, all you got to do is hire what's called a line producer, and the line producer hires everybody, and then you got to hire somebody to do the budget. So it's a budget and a line producer, and you can be the EP. Because the line producer is going to hire the segment producer, is going to hire everybody on staff, and hire the crew and deal with them and make sure they get paid. If I'd known all that at the beginning, that's what I would have done. I would have done it. And it's the only regret I have to this day. And the fact that I didn't give myself an executive producer credit, so I didn't have to deal with that fucking union actor. They were a nightmare. They were a nightmare throughout the course of the whole show. I said, I want stand-up comics to be paid. It's where I came from. It's important to me. This was after the first season. I said, I want stand-up comics paid. Well, then ACTRA got involved because a lot of stand-up comics aren't in ACTRA. And then they made a nightmare out of it, you know? And I finally just threw up my hands and said, fuck it. I don't care what you do. Just pay them. And they just fucked us around so much, Bill. You just wouldn't have believed it. They just got involved in every little fucking thing. The crew, the band, the writers, to this day, no issue with those guys. They were fantastic. It was higher up in the chain where I always had issues. And that's the story of my life. Because I was raised to be, to bow down to no man, be confrontational as hell when it came to men, and always defer to women my whole life. And it's always been like that. Anytime at Bell I worked for women, it was great. Anytime at CTV I worked for women, it was great. I don't know, if you're a guy, I don't care if you're holding a bucket with $1 million fucking bucks. You want me to do something I don't want to do, I'm going to tell you to go fuck yourself. And it came down to that with the guy who was the executive producer and the head of the network in the end.
When you made the switch from CTV to Global, were you nervous about it?
I would have been if I'd known what was going to happen. But I didn't.
You didn't know?
No.
Well,
no.
of course you don't go in there thinking it's not going to last. I mean,
No, you go, you know, the guy tells you he wants you to come there, that's great, and then the guy dies 2 weeks before you start. What are you going to say? It's a story I can't really tell because I could be sued, but basically what it came down to was I was persona non grata because I was starting to divulge things that were going on behind the scenes
that some very highly placed people at the network were uncomfortable with. There was fishy business going on. And I had no contract. I didn't know if I was coming back the next season. And when I divulged this stuff to the parent company, which was Bell that just bought the network, didn't go over well for some people. They were in trouble. And Global came to me, made me an offer through an intermediary who's now in prison for fraud. Yeah. For a guy with street smarts, I got sucked in twice in my life, and this was one of them. And I went there, and it was a nightmare. It was just a nightmare. They didn't sign us up for ratings. That's how stupid they were. I'm handing them something that's been a work in process for 8 years, and they didn't know what to do with it. It was an opportunity for me to have more ownership in the show. I think that's one of the reasons I took it. But they blew it minute one. I was hired by Izzy Asper, the father. He died a month before I came over. Now I got to deal with Fredo and Michael Corleone, the Asper brothers. The older brother I call Fredo behind his back because he wasn't allowed to run the company. And the other one, Leonard, absent all the time. Couldn't even get a hold of the guy. And the other brother, the older brother, Fredo, is left in charge, and it was just a nightmare. So when that was over, I got out of Dodge fast with my girlfriend and went to Florida for 6 weeks because I'd never had a vacation like that in my life. I'd never been off for more than 5 days of anything. So I took off for 6 weeks, and then I hit a dry spell. Then I went to CFRB, had a good time there.
In 2016, a darker chapter of Bullard's life began. His employer dropped him after he was charged with criminal harassment of his ex-girlfriend.
Was she like a super fan? Like, I understand, it started off on a tweet or Twitter. You're like, hey, I'm a fan of yours. Like, was she like, I'm a fan of yours?
No, we were set up by somebody who said to her, Mike Bullard's completely different than any other guy you've ever been with. He's not like any guy I've ever met in this business.
Mm-hmm.
She never came to see me perform. Never.
Really?
Nope. I had probably 19 corporates, and I was at Yuck Yucks 40, 50 times while we went out. Never once.
Bullard was accused of criminal harassment of his ex-girlfriend and demonized as a stalker in the media.
So were you calling her every day, or the stuff that did
No.
come out in her?
No.
Okay, I think we should maybe move on.
So that's pretty much it for me, other than the fact that I want to thank the wonderful women who stood by me, who've been my friends for a long time. And I want to thank the people who knew me when, because I haven't got much use for anybody who became my friend after I got a TV show and a radio show. Yeah. The proof to me is that your old friends are your best friends.
My friends who I went to high school with and people who've known me for 40 years knew there was no way. There was no way I stalked anybody. There was no way I made an obscene phone call. And the only reason I made a plea deal is because I had an unconscionable lawyer after I went through two. The third guy, I had to accept a plea deal on unwanted contact because the third guy said, hey, this is a great deal. And he shoved it down my throat. He said, either that or you got to write me a check for 120 grand right now. I didn't admit to a thing. And the judge, what they didn't print was that he said, Mr. Bullard, you've admitted to me that you contacted her. I heard tape of it. You were a consummate gentleman every time. And you contacted her because her cameraman, Jamie Tumulty, was running around town telling people you stalked her. Now, what I did was call her politely and ask her to have him stop doing that.
Then what was the contempt about, if you don't mind me asking? Because I know Chatelaine wrote that article, and that was shit.
That Crown charged me with obstruction of justice, contempt, breach of bail, because she followed my social media. And every time I defended myself, I got arrested another time. I was arrested 6 times, and I spent about 8 nights in jail.
Would this have happened if you weren't Mike Bullard?
No, it wouldn't have.
I'm not going to attack the person that I was with. It's not the right thing to do. Like I told you, I always defer to women. But boy, by God, the Crown Attorney who put me through hell, and Kevin Donovan at the Toronto Star who killed my mother with his bullshit story, they're going to get it. And the Canadian justice system's going to get it. Because there's something really wrong out there right now. There's something really wrong where just an accusation ends your life.
What was the fallout and impact on his career and reputation?
It's a complicated legacy, for sure. And, he was a troubled guy in some ways. I saw him at his best and at his worst as someone who covered television back then on a daily basis at the Toronto Sun. He was, already trying to make a comeback on radio at that point in his career, and those allegations absolutely ended that. So he was back sort of on the road doing stand-up. He was very much into giving back to the community and charity work, and he went to, Ukraine and literally put himself out there. So very interesting fellow, but certainly a complicated legacy.
When I look at my career and my life, I see a guy who never fucked anybody. And that's what I'm proudest of. I never fucked anybody on a deal. I never fucked anybody on a gig. And I never fucked anybody on something I promised. Now that's business. Personal, I've broken a few promises and I regret it. What I regret is putting myself in the position where I had to make those promises to begin with. And if you're being honest, that's the truth. But when it came to business and professional life, I never fucked anybody. And I'd even like that on my tombstone. He never fucked anybody. Of course, as long as I don't, I don't want to die and have people think I'm a virgin. As long as people understand the context of it when they come to the cemetery, I'll be fine with it.